Sports conversation the way it ought to be. This is Jeff Allen Sports Talk.
All right, on the eve of opening day for the Major League Baseball season, no, not those games that happened last week in Japan. The real opening day happens tomorrow, and it's time for me to get the baseball guys together once again to break it all down as we get set. Joe Finger and Jay Cresswell back on the show to discuss MLB 2025. Gentlemen, hello there.
Hiya, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff. It's been too long.
It has been too long, although
like a whole off season.
Yes, for a off season. Although we did get together for a little spring training affair over in Lakeland at the beginning of the month of March, and we'll talk a little bit about the spring training thoughts in just a bit. But wanted to kind of follow up with Jay on his week-long travel in the Sunshine State for his annual spring training pilgrimage.
That's a very accurate way of putting it. I've missed 2 years since 1987. The first was 1995 because there was a work stoppage. And about the time they got spring training going, I was busily moving.
I believe we lost Jay. Are you still there, Joe?
I am still here, Jeff.
Yes.
At least I think I am.
He looks good to me. So 2021, which was the year after everything got shut down and they had, cardboard fans in the seats. And so I decided to not go that year. So last year, as we remember, I went to 12 games in 10 days in 9 different parks. Too much. Too much travel, too much driving, too much hotel costs, too much gasoline, rental car costs. So I did the usual this year. I went down on a Saturday, came back the following Sunday. And I will tell you this, between the games, the car, the hotel, the flight, I spent $4,400. Okay. Ooh. The good news is I just paid it off with my tax return. So it just now means I'm not going to do a darn thing the rest.
Oh, that's a quite a struggle indeed. So hopefully you get your money's worth at least. That
yes.
You can probably guarantee.
Yeah, I keep saying to people, when did spring training games get more expensive than regular season games? And I understand there's 81 regular season games at a park. And spring training has, 20, maybe. But, to spend $50 to sit at the top of the bleachers plus the service charges, I got to the point where I just ordered the tickets and then I said, okay, well, screw it. I'm doing this anyhow. And that's fine. But, Joe Q Public might not be able to do that. And they lose fans that way. The NFL finally learned with, no more blackouts. That's how you create fans. In baseball, they may be going the way of the NBA when it comes to bothering their fans with the way they operate. Now, I had a great time. As you guys know,
yeah, Jay, you're cutting in and out. So
I'm sorry.
That's okay. You want to try popping out and popping back in again?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, get you reset there. So while I will we'll wait for Jay to come back into the fold here. Of course, Joe, we joined him over in Lakeland for the Tigers and the Phillies.
Joker Marchant Stadium, or Publix Marchant Stadium, I guess.
It's one or the other, right? So
no, yeah.
I think I'm back.
Yeah, Jay's back. There we go.
Yeah.
So had a great time. Saw a bunch of people, including you two, and some people I haven't seen in 30 years, and they hadn't changed a bit, and they were great. And it was beautiful. The weather was beautiful. And
Picked a good week, that's for sure. All right, so
I think Jay dropped out again.
yeah, we're still having a little bit of technical difficulties there. So let me see. Let's see if he'll rejoin here in a moment. We can definitely edit some of this out in post production since this is not a live show.
That's right.
Oh,
We just went to, this is not baseball, but to your point of editing, my wife and I went to see Wait, Don't Tell Me, the NPR quiz show, which was live at the Dr. Phillips Center. It is a 1-hour weekly show, but the live presentation probably goes at least 2 hours. So they edit it in half, and it sounds just perfect by the time it gets on the air. You get to hear all of the little snafus here and there when you're at the live show and inappropriate language and all of that, but you'll never know it if you listen on the actual broadcast on Saturdays.
Yeah. There you go. Jay, I believe, is back with us now.
Yep.
Okay,
Here we
cool.
go.
All right. So before we delve into a spring training topic I wanted to bring up, first we're going to preview our teams for 2025. And Joe, how about leading us off on the Twins?
Well, it sounds like a kind of a broken record with the Twins every year. They start this season with their top 3 players, Carlos Correa, Royce Lewis, and Byron Buxton. Not all 3 going to be on the field for opening day because now Royce Lewis is out on the IR starting the season. They only played in a handful of games together in the entire second half of last season.
Come on, these guys are never hurt.
Team collapse. They're the China Dolls. I mean, that's their alter ego. We know a lot of minor league teams have alter ego names. For the Minnesota Twins, it's the Minnesota China Dolls. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I think their pitching is their strength this year. They have a pretty good starting 5, the top 3, Bailey Ober, Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez. Those pretty solid, and they've got some depth behind them with some young guys. And they had one of the better bullpens in baseball last year. Were a little overused at the end, but assuming the starters hold up, I think the pitching, the depth there should be their strength. And then we'll see if they can keep their guys healthy or not. If so, I think they'll be competitive in the Central. That Central last year became a juggernaut. The Twins led the good part of the season, but ended up not even making the playoffs, even though 3 other teams in that division did. So it was quite a interesting season in that respect. So I think the Indians, the Tigers, and the Royals will probably be fairly good again this year. The Twins should be in the mix. And one of my hot predictions for this year is that the White Sox will only lose 109 games, which will be considerable improvement over last year. So, so we'll see. And the Twins are, the Pohlads who've owned the team for many, many years, decades, are looking to sell the team. They don't have anything imminent. One deal fell through not too long ago. So that's kind of cast a bit of a cloud over the team. To their credit, they didn't have a fire sale. They didn't really lose too many guys. They didn't add too many either. So if they can stay healthy, they'll be competitive. But I think a lot of Twins fans are kind of just wondering how it's going to shake out in terms of the the financial ramifications over the next year or two. And who knows? No one has a crystal ball for that, I don't think.
If the White Sox only lose 109, they'll have to break them up.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, what a scene that is. Of course, the Pirates are the team of Jay Cresswell's choice, and you've got a great pitcher in Paul Skeens. What else you got?
A couple other very good starters. No closer, no first baseman, no left fielder. I don't count Tommy Pham. I'm sorry. Jackson Winsky will probably start in left field. He had a very good spring. Here's the thing, though. The glass is always half empty. However, I think the Cardinals are much worse. The Cardinals let it fall apart, got rid of their, superstars who were all basically over the hill, and picked up
All right, let's.
There we go. The Cardinals in last instead of the Pirates. So I would be happy with 500. They don't hit. They have, like I said, they have no closer. They picked up 2 guys in the offseason. When they have all this pitching, you should support them with some hitting. And they have the money. So what did they do? They signed a first baseman, free agent, Swayman. And the first thing that happened was he had to have surgery on his wrist before he even stepped in the box. Okay. And, they re-upped McCutchen, and that's fine. But, he's on the way down and out at some point. And Tommy Pham. He's 37. I don't know if he has anything. I'm sure he will from time to time. But I'm not a fan of Tommy Pham because he tends to poison the clubhouse.
Yeah, wasn't that an issue? Was it wasn't he like when he wasn't he with the Angels and had issues there?
Yeah, and it was all over fantasy football.
Yeah.
He got in a fight with them over fantasy football. And of course, with Anthony Rendon, who has played 5 games in 18 years. And they got in a big fight. That's not what you want in the clubhouse.
Yeah, no question about that. And of course, at least with Paul Skeens, you get the appearances of Livy Dunn. So that's not all bad in that regard. Now, tell me what your thoughts were on this. So, the kid that won who came up with that, got that Paul Skeens card. And the Pirates offered him all sorts of stuff, and he turned them down.
Well,
and I think he just sold it on. He just sold it at auction too, right?
Yeah, and he lives in California, and he's a kid, and so the seats behind home plate in Pittsburgh aren't going to. Come back. There we are.
Okay.
And, so they sold it at auction for $1.1 million. It was bought by Dick's Sporting Goods, who is based in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So they're going to display it in their stores and rotate it from one store to another. Come see the Paul Skeens, rookie card. And I don't know. Well, they think they'll get more people in the store that way. Okay. So $1.1 million for a card from a guy who pitched, May to September, although very good.
Yeah, he was not half bad. I tell you what, though, would be interesting, if it had been me, I might have negotiated, okay, I can't go to every game and sit behind home plate, but, fly me out for the the luxury suite, 5 times a summer,
Yes. Once a month.
Yeah. That'd be a great summer, wouldn't it?
Yeah, fly me. And he could, choose games where the Dodgers or the Angels, or the A's or, one of the West Coast teams are playing there. And so he could almost see, his teams. Mind you, flying across the country just to do that. I guess when you're, 15?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good or not.
Yeah. I don't know. What would you have done, Joe?
I would have been too frightened at 15 to do that, just knowing myself. But no, I think you should go for it. Yeah, but I probably wouldn't have.
Yeah. Okay, well, we discussed our meetup at spring training, and of course, one of the things we got to witness in person was the trial run they did for the VAR strike zone, and I think we're pretty much all in agreement on this. I was very impressed with how it was handled, and it was quick and decisive, unlike what normal replay is, which I detest. Joe, lead off with your thoughts on how that.
Yeah, I know the game we went to in Lakeland, there were a few challenges, and I think there were a couple of reversals as a result of that, but it was quick. Most of the calls were not egregious errors, so I don't think there was any umpire with too much egg on his face.
Right.
But in terms of the mechanics of it, it was quick. The if the goal is to reverse calls that were missed, then I think you would say it's probably a success. My wife and I went to, I know Jay saw a variety of games, and I'm sure he'll chip in on this as well. We caught a Twins Red Sox game in Fort Myers, kind of the same thing. There were several challenges that day, some by the catcher, some by the batter. I think we only saw one call reversed there. And all throughout all of this, aren't we all thinking, too bad Angel Hernandez retired when he did? Because I was watching some clip today from some spring training game. It might have been in Arizona, where there was just a really bad call. And, the hitter challenged it, and they put the screen up there, and that pitch was so high out of the strike zone. I think what must go through an umpire when you have instant evaluation like that. Most of us are evaluated on our job, but not in front of 20,000 people.
Correct.
At a baseball stadium. So
yeah.
I think, guys, from what I'm reading, most of the fans seem to like it pretty well. And I think, at least anecdotally, I think most of the players seem okay with it. Although a few articles I've read, some of the catchers kind of fretting a little bit about the adjustment that it might be for them, because they're so used to framing the pitch.
Yes, which is cheating, by the way.
That's an adjustment. And what is the strike zone? That's a kind of an overarching question.
Good question.
The strike zone is whatever they program into this, right?
It's just the box they decide.
And that's not the strike zone the umpires have geometrically. I saw some analysis today where it was like a mathematician looked at this and said the umpires have more of an ellipse or an oval shaped strike zone and not a quadrilateral or a rectangular box. So there's going to be some adjustments. I think most of the catchers who chimed in on this, and some of the pitchers, thought that it would result in probably a few more pitches being called balls rather than more being called strikes. But whether that's statistically significant, I think that no one could probably answer that at this point. But I thought overall, I could live with it.
Joe, did you just use the word quadrilateral?
Yes, I know. I'm still in my math nerd. I'm not retired yet. I'm still teaching math. Quadrilateral. Actually, a rectangle might have been more.
Yes.
A quadrilateral. Some of the umpires, I think Angel Hernandez had a quadrilateral strike zone that was very fluid, pitch to pitch. Yes.
All right, Jay, so you got to see a lot more of it than we did. So what's your thoughts?
And mostly because it did not delay the game. Mm-hmm. The first thing when they started with the pitch clock and the batter's clock, everyone thought, oh, geez, here we go. This is going to, it's seconds. This is even less. Okay? The guy taps his head. They put it up on the screen. They go, well, it's a strike. Go. And so maybe 5 seconds to do that. And to get it right, I have no issue with that. I'm a huge fan of it, because it's not that I hate umpires, but you want it to be right. That's all there is. I don't care that it's always been that way. And as I chimed in when Joe was talking earlier, pitch framing is cheating. Okay? So I don't care that you're good at that. You're taking a ball and making it a strike. This will eliminate that.
That's a great point. And when Joe was talking too, I hadn't really thought about it in geometry terms, but it is true. I guess the umpire seeing the strike zone is more of an oval or circle because our eyes are round,
yes,
not square.
Yeah,
there's like, okay, well, yeah, that does kind of explain sometimes how they might miss something. I want to see when there's a ball that's like egregiously out of the zone that's called a strike. I want to see when that review happens because we didn't see any of that. At least I didn't. Joe didn't.
No, not at all.
That's when my interest will be piqued. But of course, we're gonna have to wait a while for that because It will not be in play for the regular season. My guess is it will probably get on the books for next year. It'll be on the minor leagues again this year. So that could be the scenario where it does come into play next season.
Yeah, I had an interesting statistic I came across today, which addressed the question of how accurate are the umpires? What percentage of the calls are considered to be accurate? And according to StatCast, last year it was about 92.5%, which sounds, pretty good. In the mid 2000s, back in 2009, it was only about 85%. So it's been trending upward over the past 10 to 15 years. Why that is, good question. Are the umpires better now than they used to be? But still about 7.5% of the calls are probably reversible based on data that StatCast had. But they also said there's a kind of a buffer zone in there where if it's a borderline call, I don't think they're calling that a miss by the umpire. So with this new system where it to go into play, it might be a little bit more than 7% of the calls that would be reversed, but the numbers overall are fairly minor. It tends to be the ones that come at a key point in a game or the egregious call that we tend to remember. But I thought that was offered some interesting perspective from just a purely statistical standpoint.
Yeah. While we wait for Jay to return, poor guy's having some technical issues. The Gremlins have gotten into the studio here.
It happens.
That's just how it is sometimes. While we're waiting for him to pop back, because yours truly can't even follow his own rundown. I forgot to talk about the Braves before we moved on to the next topic. So
I was going to say, we did the Twins and the Pirates,
but we didn't do my team.
And one of my bold predictions was that the Braves would be back in the World Series this year. Now that's my bold prediction. So it didn't jinx anybody because you're the Braves guy. Now, if you say that,
then it's over.
You might have just ruined the no-hitter, but not from me. It looks like they're poised to really have a bounce-back year at the very least, I would think.
Well, I tell you what, Joe, I'm hoping beyond hope that you are correct with that bold prediction. That would be a fabulous thing. The Braves are returning a lot of their core, of the lineup, with Austin Riley and Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies. What I'm really excited about is the addition of Jurickson Profar, who played for the Padres last year. I was very delighted to see him come back, come into Atlanta, based on the fact that he's a swagger guy, and I think Atlanta's kind of been missing that the last couple of seasons. Really, the last swagger guy was Jock Peterson. So I think having that, and he hates the Dodgers, so that's even better.
That helps. Who doesn't?
As far as that is concerned, pitching wise, Spencer Schwellenbach looks like a definite legit guy. And then we're gonna get Spencer Strider back and Ronald Acuna, so we've got reinforcements coming. So we've got essentially trades happening come the month of May. We'll be getting some reinforcements there. The other big key question, Sean Murphy was hurt a good part of last season. We don't have Travis d'Arnaud to rely upon anymore as the guy who filled that void. Having the two really good catchers was important, and Murphy got hurt in spring training, so we're gonna have to kind of figure that piece out again. But overall, I'm hopeful for Joe's prediction. I will not make one based on that.
Well, it was a bold prediction. I mean, I had to step out a little bit, but I didn't think it was far beyond the realm of possibility.
Yeah. They got to the playoffs at the very end of the season last year. I think they're going to be in the playoff mix regardless, one way or the other. All right. So we can kind of use that as a bridge to the what do you think the big story will be in 2025?
Okay, I'm gonna hijack this conversation real quickly. Here's my prediction. I think the Rays will sell out 50% of their games at home this year.
And the A's will not.
Yeah. Yeah. We will talk about the Rays home base situation, but you're probably that is probably an accurate assessment there.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Rays could win the East. That would be kind of a great story. Yeah.
But getting in and out of that park is a beating.
Is it?
Okay.
Never been there.
It's right there on Dale Mabry. It's across from where the Bucks play. The parking is terrible.
Oh, I know the area then. Okay. Oh, yeah, where it is. Yeah.
So it's a beating. Hopefully some Tampa fans will make that better than the usual Yankees fans that we see there.
Mm.
All right. Any other big story thoughts for what we think might be the?
I think the Red Sox could be poised to have a really good year, possibly. A lot of young talent coming up. Just depends on how quickly they matriculate, as they say. So that's something to keep an eye on. I'm married to a huge Red Sox fan, but I have to say that they could be very competitive this year. They've had a couple of mediocre seasons the last few years.
I'm gonna go way out and say near the end of this season, all talk will be about a potential work stoppage next year.
Ooh.
And anyone that wants to sign is going to sign to get their money. But I think I shouldn't say this. I think the owners have the cojones to do a lockout when this work agreement is up. And because just my opinion, small market team, baseball needs a salary cap and floor. Okay. Mm-hmm. Force the Pirates and the A's and those people to spend money because the league is giving it to them. Okay. Mm-hmm. Don't just hide it in the bank account over here. Spend it on players. And see, with the Pirates, they're at the end of this year, when they once again don't finish at 500, they're going to clean house. Derek Shelton, the general manager, the coaches, everybody. So they'll be primed to start over with very good pitching and hopefully someone that will come in and get hitting. But if it takes a work stoppage, they'll do it.
Yeah, I can see that scenario playing out for sure. My thought for the big story for 2025 will be the return of Shohei Ohtani as a pitcher.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, so he's coming back from Tommy John, and so he will. It'll be interesting because you know what's great. You know what a luxury that is for the Dodgers. I mean, if he's not successful as a pitcher, it doesn't matter. He's gonna drive in all those runs and
so we'll let Clayton Kershaw pitch instead.
Yeah. I'm looking at an article here that talks about the Dodgers and what a juggernaut they're going to be again. Here's how they started. It says, just think of all the current Dodgers pitchers who didn't pitch for the team during its run to the World Series last fall. Here's a sampling. Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell, Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, Dustin May, Roki Sasaki. And Ohtani's not even mentioned in that. And I didn't realize the depth on that team because I hate the Dodgers. Yeah. Like, holy cow, I could outfit 2, maybe 3 major league starting staffs with what they have. There is something wrong with that, I think. Or am I a socialist? I don't know.
No, you're not.
No, they're allowed to have.
You're a baseball fan.
Yeah.
Good grief.
Yeah, that's but that's crazy. So, but I think Ohtani will be pretty successful when he returns to the
mound. He wants to pitch. Yeah. He can.
Now, did you see the stats where they compared Ohtani pitching and hitting versus Babe Ruth in the same number of games? It's almost identical with pitching and hitting. I mean, within a game or two. of their wins and losses and ERA and home runs and RBIs and average. It's unbelievable.
That's wild.
Yep.
And to think, if he would have started in the major leagues here sooner,
yeah,
where would those totals end up? Of course, eventually he'll have to give up pitching, right?
Yes.
Here at some point.
Yeah, his arm will fall off again.
Yeah. But as long as he's willing to do it and is effective, it just makes him all that much more the weapon, as we've discussed quite often in the past. So I also saw an article this morning because, there's a lot of talk about the pitchers that are coming back from Tommy John. I think this was in USA Today. Is it, correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, but it sounded like 35% of the players coming back to pitch have had at least one Tommy John surgery.
Yep, that's right.
That sounds about right. We've talked about that in the past, so that strikes me as being pretty accurate.
One of the teams, and I think it's San Diego, this spring alone has had 6 pitchers do Tommy John surgery since spring training began.
Wow. It is incredible. And are all 6 first timers or any of those repeat customers?
Now there's 1 or 2 repeats.
Yeah. So that is, to me, just mind boggling. And they're saying the second time around surgery is even better than the first.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was relieved that the Pirates' Jared Jones did not have to have Tommy John surgery, but he's got pain in his elbow, which is just not a good thing. Garrett Cole had pain in his elbow last year, and guess what happened to him? He had to have Tommy John surgery. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. All right. So it turns out this could be the last year of ESPN broadcasting Major League Baseball. So I guess they're paying something like $50 million a season to carry their Sunday Night Baseball package, some other random games, and first part of the playoffs. And they said, okay, we don't want to pay $500 million anymore. How about we give you $50 for it? I'm exaggerating, of course, but it was definitely an extreme lowball offer, to which MLB laughed.
Right.
And so that's going to go. That's going out to open market. NBC is said to be pursuant of that potentially, because they would like Sunday night programming year round with football and upcoming NBA. As well, so they could fill their Sunday nights just about year round with sports coverage. But it has been interesting to watch the decline of how baseball is treated on the 4-letter network. It's constantly gone down. Baseball Tonight never, it's once a week now, right? At best on Sunday night. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think it also, offers another potential for more streaming. We'll have to pay to figure out how to get games on television. What are your thoughts on that?
I guess I'm not surprised by that. I'm not an expert on the financial aspects, but I would assume they just don't feel like it's worth the money. And where do I get baseball information? Well, MLB.com, streaming platforms, all over the board. I don't have to go to ESPN.
Right.
To watch that. So maybe it's just a matter of the evolution of the business model in the world in which we live. That would be my layman's first impression about that.
I watched the MLB network morning, noon, and night. That's where I get it. That's where I get my information. I didn't get it on ESPN ever since they canned Baseball Tonight and started treating baseball was the redheaded bastard stepchild.
Yeah.
And thank God there is MLB.com and the MLB network. I Quick Pitch was on last night. I got excited, because that, oh my God, Quick Pitch is on, and then On the Fly is on the NHL. I can't make up my mind. So I don't go to the worldwide sports leader for any of that stuff. I go to the sports I want to see. NFL Network, NHL Network, MLB Network, And if I want, tennis and golf and NBA, they have their own channels. That's where I'll get it. I don't need ESPN jumping all over the place.
Yeah. You can kind of also relate to this because remember when ESPN was out of the hockey business, there was zip coverage of the NHL on any of their platforms.
Yeah. I mean, remember, we're going back 30 years here, having to go to a sports bar to watch the Stanley Cup playoffs because it was on Sports Channel, and nobody had Sports Channel except 3 guys in New Jersey. Okay.
I never had it.
I would go to coach's locker room in Altamont Springs every other night for 8 weeks during the Stanley Cup playoffs. I was an alcoholic at the end of that time, but my team won the Stanley Cup. So it was great.
That's what radio does to you, Jay, I think.
Yes, it does.
Oh, gosh. The truth spoken by Joe Finger.
Yes.
Yeah.
We both worked for the Chicago White Sox of Orlando radio for a brief time.
Yes.
Me longer than you probably, but you know what I mean.
Definitely. I was 6 months.
I worked for the Cubs version.
That's better.
for a while too. But yeah, it also kind of always raises questions to me about ESPN, which I'm becoming more and more of a critic of because
me too.
They become emboldened to the sports they have their contracts in. They've got all their money in the NBA. I mean, you can't tell me for the amount of coverage that they give the NBA that people are watching that in big numbers. I just can't. Nope. I just can't buy it. Can't buy it. NFL, I believe.
Yes.
But not the NBA. So
agreed. And they're trying to package it almost with the WNBA.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you don't like the NBA, you're not going to watch the WNBA, no matter how good it is. Yeah. Okay. Or maybe you prefer that.
Which you could probably argue now, the product on the floor, the WNBA is probably better.
There are times
that's for sure.
I would watch the WNBA. I mean, for that reason.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a interesting media development there. So we've already kind of touched on this a little bit. So this year, 2 teams playing in minor league parks this season. Already the aforementioned Tampa Bay Rays will be playing at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa, and the, dare I say, Oakland A's are playing in minor league park in San Jose.
Sacramento.
I'm sorry. Thank you for the correction.
Close.
It's all the same area.
North.
I've heard it both ways. Yeah. So this is for a major league professional sport. This to me is such a black eye, especially the A's situation. Tampa's at least got an excuse for storm damage, but that's now derailed their new park plans. So this has become quite a kerfuffle, if you will.
Good word.
Yes. So I don't know. To me, how baseball handles these situations, and it's kind of embarrassing.
That's the perfect word for it. I don't care how well they do in converting those parks to have major league amenities. Okay, I'm choosing my words carefully. Are there enough toilets? Are there enough lockers? Those batting cages, things like that. They can do that all they want. It's an embarrassment. That's all there is to it. And like you said,
they're charming little parks. And I think that the commissioner himself used that word. And in real estate terms, that's the kiss. Oh, it's a charming place. In other words, you don't really want to buy this, right?
It's just like I would complain about Tropicana Field. And anyone who is a Rays fan would say, oh, it's not that bad. And it's not that bad means, yes, it is. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so it was embarrassing, and now it's even worse. And it's outdoors in the summer.
Well, if anything, you can almost argue the Rays got an upgrade for this.
Yeah, season. I agree.
Yeah.
And why didn't the Trop have drainage? I guess
Yeah.
they thought they'd never have the sky up there, you know?
Yeah, no, that's because that's really the only thing
Who
that
thought of that?
stopped them from being an outdoor stadium for
Yes.
temporarily. Yeah, I know. I've seen some posts today about how they've been rebranding Steinbrenner Field for all Rays logos. I mean, they're going to take the Yankees out of the equation on that stadium. And by the way, good on the Yankees. I normally don't have anything good to say about them, but what they're doing is pretty phenomenal.
I agree.
For the Tampa community.
Yeah, agree.
I guess their minor league team is going to play in an adjacent field
In a back lot.
for their games. Honestly, I can't see that they draw that many fans for Florida State League baseball.
No.
Anyway,
Right.
So, but good on the Yankees for stepping up and giving that. It also begs the question, Orlando potentially a home for the Rays. I know Barry Larkin has taken over the Orlando Dreamers initiative. That's the thing Pat Williams founded,
Yes.
trying to lure baseball to Orlando.
Yep.
I mean, it sounds like the end is coming near in Tampa, unless
Yeah,
somebody
I
steps
think
up.
it is.
Yeah,
Well, people aren't going to go. That's all there is to it. I don't care where they're playing. They could put a park in Ybor City with amenities and a roof and all that stuff. People aren't going to go. They don't care. They want to see their hometown team play. And that's a Florida problem for the most part. And luckily, the Lightning overcame that over many years where they became the destination in Tampa Bay. The Marlins have not overcome that. If you recall, when the Marlins started, they thought all the Cuban population in South Florida was going to come to the baseball game because they loved it. They loved baseball. Well, it didn't happen. And they were terrible until Mr. Blockbuster bought a team and they won the World Series. And then he, of course, dismantled it immediately. I just don't, I'm not slamming Florida here, but most people are from somewhere else and they're going to root for their own teams. And I think that's the problem, especially with the Rays.
I'm not from somewhere else, and I still root for Minnesota. I mean, it's just what we grow up with. It's a hard thing to
exactly
overcome. And this result that you see now, I think probably with both of these teams, Oakland and Tampa, this has been coming for years. This is like a long, slow, chronic illness, and here we are in intensive care. And what are we going to do?
Yeah. Orlando would be an interesting aspect because they would at least have the ability to draw fans from elsewhere with the tourist activity that going on here. Hey, taking my family to, I'm from Kansas City. I want to go to Disney World. Hey, I'll go catch the Royals when they play.
Yes.
Down in Orlando. So
yes.
I think there's more potential there. Is it great volume? I'm not sure.
So was the Pat Williams model a new park, or was it
a 33,000 seat park?
So it was not rebuilding Tinker Field again.
Not rebuilding Tinker Field, which actually they can't.
There's no room
because I believe, because the Camping World renovations took a large chunk of that out of it.
Right.
So down near SeaWorld is what he was looking at. I mean, in the interim, if they were able to put something together, they could probably get them to play out of Disney.
Yes.
Temporarily for a little while, since there's nothing going on there baseball wise.
That's true.
So it would be interesting to see if there's an opportunity there. And we didn't really talk about the A's situation. Now that, there's a lot of Dumb and Dumber going on there too.
Yes.
How do you plan to move? And there's still, I believe, issues with Vegas building the park.
Correct.
So they really don't have 100% lockdown solid destination moving to Vegas. And they basically pissed on the city of Oakland.
Yes.
in pardon my language, but that's pretty much what they did. And here they are, playing in a minor league ballpark in Sacramento. I mean, How does that happen?
And it's going to be 110 degrees there at game time.
Yeah.
Okay. And, I guess they have drainage there, but it's not going to rain there. And if it does, it'll be, Moses-like floods. Okay. Because it's California. So that's just an embarrassment for Major League Baseball.
Who's going to the games? People from Oakland. You got to be real diehard and in love with the team if you're gonna still be an A's fan living in Oakland.
Yeah, I mean the Raiders are gone. Now the A's. But there's something in the legacy of that franchise back in the day, the Charlie Finley days. He was the cheapskate, and it just seems like, yeah, they had some success with Billy Ball and had some good teams from time to time, but it was always like you just sensed that they were just one around the corner, and they're going to be right back in the mess they are now. And that's been going on for decades, it seems like.
Yeah.
To me.
So even after Finley, they never really broke out of that mold.
Yeah, seemingly not. Yeah.
I have a friend who's a huge A's fan. He's from the Bay Area, and he loves them. When he's in California, he would go see them, and he has embraced the horrible situation. I'll go see him in Sacramento. I'll go see him when they move to Vegas because they're my team. How many people are going to do that? You have to be a huge baseball fan to do that.
Yeah.
And specifically for that team.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't, good on him. I wouldn't be able to do it. I don't think.
I wouldn't.
Yeah. All right. So before we get to TV themes, I remembered to do. We're going to do it this time. See, I'm making progress. I thought we would talk about our football teams. And I most in particular want to hear from Mr. Cresswell because the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you really want Aaron Rodgers in your neighborhood?
No. That's just me. He's good. Not what he used to be.
Is he better than Russell Wilson?
Yes, but he's poison. Okay.
Which is why he's not going to Minnesota. There's not a chance in that he's going to Minnesota for that very reason.
And by poison, I'm not referring to his mushrooms, okay? Or his politics for that matter. But there's something about a guy whose entire family won't communicate with him. And every woman he's ever been with is basically ruined until they take 5 years of therapy because that's who he is. And that poisons a football team. So the other thing is, if he's the starter in Pittsburgh, they're not going to run Arthur Smith's offense. They brought Arthur Smith in to build that offense for a long-term build. Aaron Rodgers is going to do what he wants to do. And then so you've got that guy and you've got George Pickens. Oh, my God. So before free agency started, my wishes for the Steelers, and I'm not going to say tanking, okay, although it would help, was that they would let Russell Wilson go. Thank you. They would not sign Aaron Rodgers. They would trade George Pickens for a second-round draft pick. They got their wide receiver in a trade. And then they get another running back, they get another lineman, they get a defensive lineman, and they'll be just fine, okay? In that division, they'll be better than Cleveland no matter what they do, okay? So all I'm waiting for is Aaron Rodgers to go away. And if you have any dignity, Art Rooney Jr., tell him you're not interested, okay? I'm sure you've seen on social media the billboards that people made up that says, please don't trade for Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Just because of the kind of person he is. Now, let's go back. He was my favorite quarterback. Okay. I'm a huge Packers fan. Okay. Sorry, Joe. I'm a huge Packers fan I'm a Bart Starr guy all the way back to the 60s. Okay.
I like Bart Starr.
Yeah. And I thought Aaron Rodgers was the best quarterback in football. And it turns out he's very talented. He's just a big jerk. And I'm sorry, as one gets older and older, I'll stop there, that matters to me. I don't want some jerk ruining the chemistry or, poisoning the locker room or blowing off the coach or doing what he wants to do. And that's exactly what Aaron Rodgers would do. He needs to go away. I'm fine with Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, totally agree. That's the filter.
Can you ride with,
the filter that we have, right? Are you a jerk or not? That's going to be the first question I want to have answered.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. After Roethlisberger retired, the best quarterback the Steelers had was Mason Rudolph. But for some reason, Mike Tomlin did not like him. Okay. I guess he likes him fine now. Okay. But he just didn't want to give him a break. And when the first time he struggled, they took him out and put Duck Hodges. I have trouble saying it. Duck Hodges in to play quarterback. Okay. And now the only thing Duck Hodges has going for him is he's married to some hot model or actress or something. I can't think of her name.
And in the end, that's all that matters, as we
it is to me. Okay. So that's what they're doing. And I just can't wait. I just want them to tell Rodgers to go away. Or he's going to drag this out. And then if the Steelers go 7-10, they'll still finish ahead of Cleveland. And next year's draft has a ton of quarterbacks in it. Not this year, next year does. So I'm not saying tank, but I'm saying, let's see how you do with Mason Rudolph.
Did I hear you say 7-10? The
Yes.
first losing season ever for
Yes.
the most.
And I hate to say
ever.
this. This is, what do you call it when you like it when other people fail? Schadenfreude.
Yeah.
Schadenfreude. Okay, I'm German. I should know this. I want Mike Tomlin to have a losing season. And if
by
you
the way,
read,
Duck Hodges is engaged to Lainey Wilson.
oh yeah, that's it. He outkicked his coverage, man.
Yeah.
He's shorter than her too. So Mike Tomlin, he doesn't admit when he makes a mistake. He's a good coach. I mean, yes, there are 29 other teams that would like to have him. Go for it. They need a change. Andy Reid needed to leave Philadelphia, and now he's won 3 Super Bowls in Kansas City. Okay? That's what needs to happen with the Steelers. It won't, because Art Rooney is stuck in the mud, like the whole organization is. But that's what needs to happen.
Okay, so you're good riding with Rudolph.
Yeah, he was my favorite quarterback when he was there, and they just wouldn't play him.
Now, would you have been open to the idea of Aaron Rodgers after Roethlisberger retired, when he was
Absolutely
an elite quarterback?
Absolutely. Because then you can't complain. We went from a guy who couldn't walk down the field anymore to a guy who's still at the top of his game at that point. I totally would have been fine with it, even though he's still a jerk.
Yeah, well, Joe, it looks like your team has avoided the jerk, although
Yes.
they were supposedly in that conversation for quite a while.
Yeah, I don't know how seriously they were thinking about that, but I cannot imagine a more polar opposite combination than Aaron Rodgers and Kevin O'Connell. O'Connell, it's all about how you fit in. It's all about the team. It's all about the positive energy. And of course, that's great as long as you're winning. And of course, if you start losing, then you're too soft. And if you're a hard-nosed, old-school guy and you lose, then you need to loosen up. But the Vikings have built a pretty good clubhouse. They're well regarded around the league as a very family-friendly team. 14-3 last year, the overachievers in the Central for sure. They were picked by some to finish last in that division last year, and they went 14-3. And at least on paper, after free agency, they look to have improved their lot. They were pretty active in free agency because for the first time in a number of years, they were not held hostage by a huge multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract to a backup quarterback who now plays for the Atlanta Falcons. So they were able to be pretty active in free agency. They've added a couple of new offensive linemen from from the Colts. They got a couple of veteran defensive interior linemen, Jonathan Allen from the Commanders and Javon Hargrave from the 49ers. So if these guys can stay healthy, it looks like the Vikings have improved in the key areas. They needed help in the interior defense and in the interior part of the offensive line. They're bringing Aaron Jones back. They picked up Jordan Mason from the 49ers, who had a really good year last year when McCaffrey went down. So, and they've re-signed a couple of key players in the secondary. So, I think most of the fan base feels like they were pretty effective. Did a pretty good job in free agency. Most of the soothsayers, prognosticators, give them pretty good grades. But the Packers and Lions have also been given good grades for what they did in free agency. So you've got that juggernaut, those three teams who, this time last year, I thought the Packers were a Super Bowl team, maybe.
Yeah.
They ended up, third in that division. So, and for the Vikings, it's the issue going into this season is going to be, is this J.J. McCarthy's coming out party? It's going to be his team, apparently.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm hearing that they may be looking to maybe get Ryan Tannehill as the backup, the veteran backup, if they can work out, the money. They still have some cap space to be able to probably pay a guy like that. So we're kind of waiting to see how that shakes out. But they look to be very, very strong. But that's a very, very tough division.
Yeah, I mean, even the Bears are good.
Yeah, the Bears are better. They lost a lot of close games last year.
Yes.
And I think Williams is going to be an excellent quarterback. I saw him do some things in certain games last year where it's like, wow, if this is a sneak preview of what could be, he's going to be great. Of course, he had some games where it wasn't so great, but he didn't have a lot of talent around him in some of those games.
Yeah. Well, the Vikings were willing to let Sam Darnold walk.
Yeah.
A guy that had a career year. Now, there was a little fizzle there at the end, which probably was more indicative of his prior tenures, I would say.
Yes.
So, to me, not bringing in Aaron Rodgers is the right move because I think because there's no guarantee that Darnold would have been the starter if McCarthy hadn't gotten hurt.
Correct.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
Sam had I think Sam had a great year. He showed some tendencies late in the year that were more reminiscent of what we had seen in prior seasons. But the Vikings were very vulnerable with the interior defense, and some of the advanced analytics show that Darnold was being harassed a lot, but he did not respond to that as well as would have been liked. So I think McCarthy is going to offer a skill set which I think will serve them well. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. I think he's got the skill set. They've got a great system, a great coach, and I think JJ's a little cocky. I think he's got a little swagger. So I'm looking for big things from him. I hope I'm right.
And I think a blessing in disguise that he got to sit a year.
Yeah.
What's that?
I think a blessing in disguise that he got to sit a year.
Perhaps. Yeah. It could very well be.
Yeah. I kind of go looking, all this discussion around quarterbacks to me, and I'm hoping like the next generation steps up, but in a league driven by quarterbacks, people are so desperate to find a quarterback, and we just have the same quarterbacks changing teams.
Yes.
It's
like hockey coaches.
Yeah, it's crazy, all right, Russell Wilson, work out Pittsburgh. Hey, come to New York. Yeah. Darnold goes to Seattle to be their quarterback. It's like all these guys are just, trading places.
In some cases, a fresh start seems to do wonders. And I think it does matter to some extent, obviously, the talent around you and the coach and kind of the environment. But you're right. I mean, a lot of this is just musical quarterback chairs in some cases.
Yeah, which is very surprising. Tell me if you heard this rumor, Joe. I had heard somewhere, too, that especially since he probably will not be the starter in Atlanta anymore, that Kirk Cousins was apparently open to the possibility of coming back to the Vikings to be the backup. Had you heard that one?
I have not heard that, actually. That's interesting. But I had not heard that.
Yeah, I think that's a guy, because good Lord, he knows he's schooled the world on how to get paid.
Yes.
The Falcons are right where the Vikings were.
Yeah, but
At least Cousins was the starter
yeah,
when he was with Minnesota until he
yeah,
got hurt.
yeah. But now, so now Cousins may be regretting that one last big paycheck because he had a great situation with a great coach in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So I think he's kind of having a little buyer's remorse.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Vikings fans would be too thrilled with that possibility. I think they would be okay with a guy like Tannehill coming in as a backup.
Yeah,
especially with the coaching staff they have there and the system they have.
Because if Cousins were to come back, there's always going to be that.
That's,
you have to look over his shoulder.
You cannot go home again. Usually.
Yes,
not in this situation. I don't think.
Yeah, those are pretty true words there. So Jay, you're in Dallas, and how I keep seeing these stories that I think I have been debunked by most as bogus. But hey, Cowboys are going to trade Dak Prescott to the Cleveland Browns. How?
None of that is happening.
Yeah, I didn't think so, but it's
none of that is happening.
Yeah.
And
who's
they're
going
going
to out there on that.
Yes, who knows? Probably one of the ESPN guys, Stephen A. Here's the thing: the Cowboys are going to wait till the last minute to sign the best pass rusher in the NFC. Okay, that's what Jerry does. He waits till the last minute and then he gives them what they want. How does that help your team? If you're going to give them that now, so the rest of the team sees that you mean to win. And that's just Jerry being Jerry.
And the fact that guys are restructuring their contracts to free up money.
That is correct.
Yeah. It's like,
that is correct.
Go get it done.
They're in a tough division.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Eagles.
I mean, the Eagles are going to be good again. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, the Commanders.
Yeah, Commanders have much improved. The only thing we'll probably count on is the Giants still stinking.
Yes, absolutely.
So we got that going for us.
Yes.
But it is interesting. I do like what they're doing on defense.
Yes.
Odighizuwa was a great re-sign. I wanted that.
They needed to do that.
They needed to do that.
Yep.
He's probably the most underrated defender they have because he just takes up space and makes so many good plays in the middle of the field. So I think they've been doing their job there. CD's restructured his contract, so hopefully help things out with the Micah Parsons bag.
Yes.
But it's but you're right. It's gonna be Jerry just lets people drive the market, and then all of a sudden, okay, Jerry, you could have had that guy for $40 million less. You know?
Yeah. A month ago.
What I really want to see, because during the late stages of the season and during the offseason, Micah Parsons has said he doesn't have to be the highest paid. Does he really mean it? We're going to find that out, I think.
I mean, look at Myles Garrett, who obviously doesn't care about winning. He only cares about the money. That doesn't mean he's not a great player and perhaps the best rusher in football. And coming from a TJ Watt fan, that hurts me to say that. But he set the market, and now they're going to have to pay.
Yeah.
They're going to have to pay. That's the thing.
Yeah. All right. Joe is back. Hey, Joe, I saw you working on the stove back there. What's for dinner?
we've got chop suey with some sauce I'm working on.
Ah, okay.
But yeah, if you guys were here, we'd have you for dinner. But
damn.
Appreciate that.
Maybe some other time. Yeah.
All right. Well, good job. Good job handling things in the kitchen there. He's multitasking.
Try to.
All right. Are we ready to do TV themes?
Yep.
Okay, let's do that.
Do Joe's first.
We'll do Joe's first. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Here we go.
Wonderful World of Disney.
In case you missed that, it is The Wonderful World of Disney.
So yes, the wonderful world of Disney. I must say, I you might have inferred, perhaps, I selected that in honor of my wife's retirement from Disney at the end of January. So she's now in her second month of Medicare. Something Jay knows a little something about.
Yes.
And I will sooner than later know something about. And Jeff, you eventually will know something about. So
Sooner than I want.
yeah, that show is still on. It started in 1954. I think now these days it's the occasional special, which shows up on ABC or maybe Disney Plus. But it's still alive and ticking. But it started way back in 54. There have been various changes in the specific title. There certainly have been some changes in the specific theme, although almost always we've had "When You Wish Upon a Star,"
Yes,
as part of the music. The theme you just played, I believe, Jeff, was one I selected from 1975, which for Jay and I, and maybe on the a little early for you, Jeff, perhaps, or maybe not, but it would have been our Wonder Years period, I think.
yeah.
That version of it ran from about 1968 to 79, and that's what I remember when I watched it. And it was just some orchestral different medleys of various Disney songs from the movies and themes and so forth. And over the years, they've accentuated different parts of it here and there, with disco versions in the early 80s and jazzier versions at certain times. But it began way back in the day. Walt Disney himself was the host. They did a host segment back early on. And he would come on and say, "Hello, I'm Walt Disney. Thanks to some old-fashioned magic we call imagination, right now we're leaving the world of today behind. So if your imagination is ready, here we go." Wow, don't we need that in today's world?
Yes.
But yeah, that kind of set the tone way back generations ago. And so that was one that we occasionally watched. I can't say I was a weekly thing for us, but we watched it fairly regularly over the years, and it's as I said, it continues even today in some
back
form or another.
then would have been after NFL football on NBC.
Yep.
Yeah, it ran. Yeah, and the theme you played, it was on NBC at the time, and at various times it was with all three networks. From what I read, I remember it mostly from NBC back when when we were kids. Yeah.
When you played that, I was immediately 16 years old, sitting on the couch in my grandparents' living room, watching Disney on the television.
That sounds about right.
Yep, just unbelievable.
Yeah, so I understand It's a Small World in Disneyland is being refurbed. I'd heard that it was going to close here. Is that true or false?
Which one, Jeff?
It's
California.
a Small World. So in California, it's being refurbed.
My Disney expert has just walked in. So what's going on, Andrea? It's a Small World. What's the status?
I don't know.
She says she doesn't know. She doesn't work there.
But I never
She says she's so I don't know if there's anything to it or not. She doesn't know, but we picked the Wonderful World of Disney as my theme this week in honor of you. So she's thinking, oh,
That's really sweet.
yeah, the theme from 1975.
So my friend Bill, who was the voice of Disneyland, and his wife was the voice of Disney's California Adventure.
Wow,
And
that's impressive.
In the middle of the pandemic, they were aged out. They still do a ton of stuff for Disney. They're contract employees, and they're union, which is even better. Yep. But we went to the Grand Canyon during the pandemic just to get out in the middle of nowhere where no people are. And they drove down from Salt Lake City, and I drove from here, and I will never do that drive again. And he said when they got back to LA, they were going to tell them that they could no longer say ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, because that's gender specific.
Yeah.
It's not generic. And I mean, they're fine with that. That's fine. They're not nincompoops, but and that was about the time they phased them out.
Right.
Wow.
What a gig that was. Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
I have a great story. Bill has an agent, and he said Disney called him one day, and they're supposed to give him 48 hours notice. And they called him. He was in LA, so they said, "Can you come in tomorrow?" And he said, "Yes, I will come in tomorrow. But just so you know, I'm supposed to get 48 hours notice." And their response was, "That's what the guy before you said."
Oh,
And he said, "I am so terribly sorry. I don't know why I said that. When do you need me to be there?" And so then he stayed with them for another 15 years,
Yeah,
Glad it worked out.
Alrighty then.
Yes. Yeah, and the guy he replaced was Jack Wagner, not the singer.
Not the soap opera singer star, no?
No,
Okay.
he's a voice guy. And if you get on any of the buses or trams at any Disney facility, that was Jack Wagner's voice.
Yeah.
You parked in Goofy 23. That was Jack Wagner. And they got rid of him because he, pulled an attitude. And my friend benefited.
Yeah.
Right.
Good stuff.
Good story.
All right, Jay, you got a theme, so let's crank that one out now. Jay, is
All
that
right.
the theme from Jag?
It sounds like Star Wars. Okay. It's funny you say that because this was a CBS military drama in the early 80s. And for a show that lasted a whole 6 months on CBS, that was the theme was Mike Post wrote that, as he did every other song back then. But here's the thing. I remember, I hate soap operas, okay? But if there was no Monday Night Football, I would watch this show because the women were gorgeous, okay? And keep in mind, I was 24, all right? Listen to and even the men were gorgeous in this show. Okay. The big cheese was Dennis Weaver, McLeod. Maude Adams, Jill St. John, Andrew Stevens, Richard Dean Anderson, Celia Ward. Yes. Celia Ward, Susan Day, Patrick O'Neill, Robert Vaughn, Robert Loggia. Just some of the people who starred in this show that lasted 6 months. And probably
Those are all beautiful people, I must say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a lot of star power.
That was fall of '83. I'm going to see what was on opposite it.
I do not remember this show.
Monday night at 10.
Yeah.
So it was opposite Monday Night Football. Its lead-in was Bob Newhart. And NBC had the Monday movie. So it was after MASH, Newhart, Emerald Point, NAS. Not a good show, but hot people.
And Andrew Stevens, wasn't he Stella Stevens' son?
Yes, and married to like Jacqueline Smith or something like that.
Yeah.
So when I was looking through these, I wanted to get the theme to F Troop, but I couldn't find it. And I looked it up in my book here. And F Troop was only on for 2 seasons. And I mean, it was on every afternoon after school, okay? And the F Troop theme was done by some guy I've never heard of. But his claim to fame was he wrote all the incidental music for Looney Tunes and Bugs Bunny. And then he wrote the theme to F Troop. And I couldn't find it. Maybe in the future I'll be able to find it. I loved F Troop.
All right, so we got a teaser for an upcoming J selection.
Yes.
You should go with that. I thought about F Troop. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if you had used it before or not. So
I can't find it.
Yeah. All right, so my TV theme, in the spirit of opening day tomorrow, I'm going to see if you guys can tell me what this is. All right, would you guys like to venture a guess on that?
I don't think I know specifically what it is. It certainly sounds like a baseball theme. It reminds me of another baseball theme, maybe from NBC or something. But I don't.
Yeah,
know.
I'm going to go with Saturday afternoon baseball. Although I don't think that's it.
All right, so that is actually the CBS Sports MLB theme.
Oh,
in the
and that's
1990s.
When
Oh,
was
that's
that?
great.
This was in the 90s. This was during the Pirates playoff runs in the 90s. The Minnesota Twins. Of 90s.
CBS. Wow.
CBS, yes.
Yeah, they did have baseball, didn't they?
Yes.
Sean
Jack
McDonough.
Buck and Tim McCarver. Did they work for? Was that a CBS
Yeah.
team?
Yeah, Jack
And
Buck.
Pat, what's his name?
Yeah.
Who also did Entertainment Tonight.
Oh,
Pat O'Brien or
Pat
Yes.
O'Brien. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Sean McDonough,
Well, yeah.
voice of MLB on CBS.
Young Sean McDonough.
Yes. So, yeah, that was. I
That was a great one.
Given the success of your two teams during that time.
Yep.
That would be true. Yeah, for sure.
Sadly,
I
that
was
was the
thinking of
end.
you guys for that. So.
Okay, good.
Good job, Jeff.
Yeah. Yeah. But, it's kind of funny. Even though my all-time favorite theme is the March Madness
Yes.
music is my all-time favorite, there's something about baseball themes that really resonate. To me, they seem to bring out that lore of yesteryear and and things like that.
Yeah, and that's a skill for people who write music to pull that off. It's just unbelievable.
It's a little more sophisticated in some ways, but
Yes, exactly.
Baseball is more literate in some ways and
Yes.
captures maybe a greater cross section of emotion.
Yeah, well, it also does a quadrilateral thing. I just thought I'd throw that at you, Joe.
You're not going to let me live that down.
No, I thought I love it. I'm a geometry guy. I thought that was great.
Good.
Yeah. No, I think baseball has the best aura of the
Yes.
sports out there.
Good.
I think
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. So a little baseball theme music opening day tomorrow or today if you're listening to this tomorrow and beyond. So yeah, looking forward to it, and we'll be doing a few shows throughout the baseball season. So Joe needs to get to his dinner.
You know that. You see it in the
Chop
back.
suey.
Yeah.
suey.
So we got to let Joe get to dinner. Jay, thank you as well. Appreciate it,
Of
guys,
course.
as always.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, good stuff, guys.
Yeah, we had a lot.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So I guess it worked out there.